Yo, what's up boys? It's Betta-ah here with the second guide for the Herald of Agony. That's an early 4 divine budget depending on if you decide to craft your own clusters. That's the Chaos Inoculation setup with an Aegis Aurora shield. If you have not seen the first video, I highly recommend that you go and check it out in the top right hand corner, or the link is down below in the description for you. This version takes on T16 mapping, Guardians, Shaper, Cyrus, Eater of Worlds, and Searing Exarch rather comfortably with around about 3 million pinnacle DPS, and I think it's a 100k effective hit pool that is a million effective hit pool actually while Bastion of Hope is active. Just do note that the fights will be rather slow, but they are really relaxing, as getting more damage for the build will require a lot more investment, which I will cover in the next video and the fourth one as well. So what's different from the life version is we remove all of our life from the previous setup and we move on into energy shield, and we utilize chaos inoculation, so we are obviously immune to chaos damage, meaning we don't need to rely on any form of chaos resistance. And now we also make use of clusters for a large amount of reservation efficiency of discipline, determination, and grace too, I believe, in order to fit all 5 of our auras for a massive defensive boost overall. And then for damage, we've got 2 mediums with the pure agony on it to increase the amount of virulences that we can stack up. Initially you'll have 40, but because we have 2 of these mediums, it means that you will have 50, giving some extra damage and a few other minor quality of life changes. There's another 2 videos that will follow with the Endgame build guide at around about 15 divines budget, and then the last will be the super juiced up 50 divines for uber bossing and some awesome tech to do wave 30 simulacrums easy mode. Right, just quickly moving over onto the path of building over here, I do just want to let you guys know that underneath the notes I've got the gearing priority, which you should aim for very first off, which is all of your reservation efficiency and that stuff. And then I've got trade links for each piece of gear, should you be lazy like myself. I also do just want to note here that by crafting your own clusters, you'll be able to save a lot more currency, and that's how I came to the 4 divine budget. However, if you choose not to craft your own clusters, then you can expect to spend about 6 divines on the setup, which maybe even 7. It does depend on what you're trying to look for on them. However, in order to roll them, all I did was I just bought R83 increased mana reservation efficiency with 3 skills, and then I just chaos spammed them to land the self-control for discipline, the sublime form for grace, and then obviously the uncompromising for the determination efficiency. The mediums you can just buy straight off the bat. For the path of building, you can find it down below in the description alongside the very first update video, which was of the life version, should you be looking for it right now. In terms of when you are rolling these small clusters, I would use chaos orbs, because your chances of landing one of these 3 is, I believe, 1 in 9. I'm not too sure if I'm accurate on that, but it's just a pretty much of a ballpark. And then I do just want to note quickly underneath the configuration over here for your effective hit pool, if you take away Bastion of Hope, the hit pool does fall down to 107k, which is what it actually is. However, when Bastion of Hope is up from our ascendancy, it does jump to 1.1 million. So do just note that sometimes you can still get one shots and you aren't actually immortal, as your block chance will fall off now and then to 34%. Alright, should you have missed the very first video and you're unsure of how the build works exactly, we take advantage of stacking up levels on Herald of Agony, as for each virulence that you have, the Agony Crawler gains increased attack speed, flat physical damage, and percent increased physical damage. And as we have 50, you can just imagine crazy amounts of attack speed and extra physical damage that it provides. Now, in order to gain virulences, you have to poison enemies, right? And the more poisons that we can get onto enemies, the more virulences that we can stack up to the maximum cap of 50, meaning that we can ensure that we can have our maximum damage uptime by applying a lot of poisons really quickly. In the first video, I was using Stormbrand and Ball Lightning. However, I have now switched to using Winter's Orb with GMP. I'm still using Stormbrand. The reason why I decided to go with Winter Orb and GMP is because, especially for bossing, this makes it very, very easy to cap your virulences, and overall, it just makes the build a lot more comfortable and you can focus on mechanics a lot easier. And then obviously, while moving from mechanics, I do have Stormbrand just as a backup for when I am not channeling Winter's Orb. And then for those of you who don't know how to summon the spiders as well, all you need to do is just throw down Desecrate about 2 or 3 times, just channel Winter's Orb now, smack your Writhing Jar, and boom, there's your spiders, and they will last for about 30 seconds. Do just note that it is pretty difficult to keep them summoned up during mapping. So what I would typically do is just throw down a Stormbrand and a Desecrate on packs of enemies, and now and then it will refresh, but majority of the time it will end up falling off. Let's just move on to the Pantheon real quick over here that I am running. I am running Soul of Solaris for bossing and Soul of Rizlatha. The reason why I go with Solaris is for the extra physical damage reduction and the 20% chance to take less area damage from hits. You can obviously upgrade this all the way to gain the advantages of the reduced elemental damage and take no extra damage from critical strikes. And then Rizlatha, so I can gain extra charges on the Writhing Jar Flask. This is just so that sustaining your spiders during boss fights is going to be a lot easier and less troublesome. In terms of the Ascendancy, we keep Radiant Crusade, Unwavering Crusade, Time of Need, and Bastion of Hope. Nothing changes there. Deferring from the life setup, as we are now CR, you will make use of gaining extra energy shield from all of these nodes around here, some extra armor as well. We do take 30% reduced extra damage from critical strikes. And then we've also got this one, as we're cursing enemies, is an additional 40%. So then we've got 70% reduced damage from critical strikes, which is really, really good, especially for bossing. Obviously, we've still got our chance to poison with spell damage. We've got all of the reservation efficiency nodes still. And then we also make use of Divine Shield now, whereby 3% of all physical damage that is prevented from hits recently is regenerated as energy shield per second. This is really good for sustain alongside with our Aegis Aurora, because each time that you block, this includes attacks and spell blocks, you will recover 2% of your armor as energy shield. And because we've got 32,000 armor, you can expect to recover, I think it's about 700 ES or so. I'm not really that good on the math right now. And then we're also making use of Wicked Ward over here, just so that our energy shield recharge is not interrupted by damage if it has begun recently, for more sustain once again. And then on the body armor, we're running a Ghost Dance Keystone now for the extra Ghost Shrouds, so we can recover 3% of our evasion rating. Seeing as though we're using Grace and we've got a decent amount of evasion rating, we can recover some extra energy shield via that as well. Basically, this early CR setup is for maximizing the amount of defense early on, so then you can slowly work your way up to gaining more damage out of large clusters and more medium cluster jewels and so forth. It also gets you really, really comfortable with the build early on. It's got some minion damage over here, and minions gain Unholy Might on kill just for the extra damage. And I've taken these minion accuracy nodes because when you are facing pinnacle bosses, minion accuracy is very, very important in order for them to have a 100% chance to hit. Otherwise, the damage starts to fall off down the line. When you are rolling your small clusters, that you should look to find any strength, dexterity, maybe some energy shield or even armor. But all res is probably the most important, and trying to get a little bit of extra strength or dexterity, as the build is starved of those, and that's why I've still got the might and agility nodes over here. For the most important thing right now, guys, in order to apply your poisons even quicker, we're making use of a golden rule. What happens with the golden rule jewel is that, say I poison an enemy and then I poison myself as well, and that counts as 2 virulences. Meaning, if we're able to poison an enemy 10 times within 1 second, we're gaining 20 virulences as we're poisoning ourselves 10 times as well. This is in order to keep your virulences up as high as possible in bossing, And then lastly over here with the skill tree, just real quick, we are using a Watcher's Eye for the extra armor while affected by determination, just to bring our armor pool up once again for that extra recovery from the Aegis Aurora. Very, very, very powerful. Okay, moving over to the gear now, just real quick. Of course, we're using the Aracali's Fang still and the Eber's Unification. However, now on the Eber's Unification, you'll look to have Herald of Agony has increased mana reservation efficiency. Must be 75%. This is very, very important. Otherwise, you won't be able to fit your auras. The Amulet over here is just a +1 to level of all physical skill gems. This increases the level of determination. Our Herald of Agony, it's got a large amount of dexterity and the increased maximum energy shield. You can also get flat energy shield on it. It really doesn't matter. As long as your energy shield pool is above 4,000, the build is very, very comfortable in its current state. And then the shield is the Aegis Aurora, obviously. Nothing too special except for that extra recovery that we are relying on. I guess that's what initially really does make this build super tanky at this moment in time. And then for the boots is a Rainbow Stride now for the chance to block spell damage. This is to ensure that you are spell block capped, and it also gives a little bit of resistances and some movement speed. And then for the belt over here, I'm running a Stygian Vase, and the reason why I'm running a Stygian Vase is for a normal jewel to slot into it with energy shield and the increased reservation efficiency of skills. This is just so that your total amount of mana that you do have is high enough to proc your Frost Shield and your Sniper's Mark when you do get stunned, which is not all that too often, as we do get the 10-second stun immunity from our Ascendancy. And then on the belt itself, I've just got increased Flask Effect duration. This is not necessary at all. What is necessary on the belt is some resistance, flat energy shield, and then obviously some strength. Then moving on to the gloves here, I've just got a pair of energy shield. These will be pretty expensive if you do seek to buy them with 139 ES or whatever. I got lucky with Exalt slamming it just for fun, and I landed the energy shield. What you are looking for on these gloves is the sockets of gems are supported by level 18 or 20 faster casting with energy shield and maybe some cold resistance. You can find a pair that has got the blind as well. The blind does help out a lot, especially with the fact that we've got a decent amount of evasion rating. And then for the Circle of Nostalgia, obviously now instead of having the Chaos Resistance with the mana reservation efficiency, we're now using the Agony Crawler, deals increased damage. And then for the Implicit, I've just got -1 to total mana cost of skills. Basically, any implicits will do really, really well over here on the ring itself. There is nothing that you have to have. And then for the other ring that you need to run, it must have Curse Enemies with Despair on hit. This reduces all enemies' resistances by 15%, I believe it is. Yes, 15%. And then, of course, you just want a bit of energy shield on it. And then I just crafted non-channeling skills have reduced total mana cost. This is just so it's a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, it's not necessary. You can get some resistance here too, and some stats maybe with whatever you are pretty much missing. And then obviously is the Skin of the Lords for our chest for the 2 level of Cycled Gems and the increased global defenses. But the most important thing is the Ghost Dance. I do just want to note that if you cannot afford the Ghost Dance, I think they're 1.5 divines at the moment with 4 green, 1 blue and 1 red, then I highly recommend that you grab one with Iron Reflexes so that all of your evasion rating is converted to armor, meaning you'll have even more sustain from the Aegis Aurora, but of course it's not a must. Okay, then just moving on to the skill gems now, real quick. In the Aracali's Fang, I'm now running Unbound Ailments instead of Feeding Frenzy for the extra damage, and the Withering Touch still alongside Multi-Strike. Obviously, during mapping, what you want to do is just pop in your melee splash just to make it a little bit smoother. And speaking of mapping, right, should you want some extra clear speed, right, I would highly recommend that you swap out your gloves for a pair of Asenats with Curse Enemies with Enfeeble on hit. This way, you're cursing enemies with Temp Chains and Enfeeble. And then you can drop your Sniper's Mark as well. And then you're gaining even more damage for the Agony Crawler, allowing your mapping to go a little bit smoother and maybe quicker. Okay, then in the helmet over here, I've just got Flame Dash for utility, and then Discipline for the energy shield, Tempest Shield once again for immunity to shock, and the huge amount of spell block that it does give to us. And then Flesh Offering is for the attack speed for our Agony Crawler and for our Spiders. Then in the shield, I'm running Grace for the evasion rating, Desecrate for our only means of generating corpses, obviously, and then our Determination giving a massive chunk of armor. I believe it gives us like 25 or 26,000 armor in total. It is really, really crazy. And then over here in my boots, I'm just running a Vol Molten Shell. This is just for those like oh shit moments, and just for some extra defensive capabilities while mapping and bossing. Obviously is the cast when stunned here, linked to Frost Shield. The reason why I've got this setup is mostly for bossing. When you do get hit, when you get stunned, it will pop the Frost Shield on top of you, allowing you to mitigate even more damage as damage is taken from the Frost Shield before you. Not all damage, just some of it. And then a Sniper's Mark. This is for the extra projectile damage, which is really, really good for our Agony Crawler. And also it makes projectiles split, so it just makes mapping a little bit smoother. And then of course in the gloves is the Winter's Orb, GMP, Stormbrand, and Chance to Poison. For the body armor now, instead of running Pierce, we are now running Vile Toxins for the more damage that it gives our Agony Crawler, seeing as though all enemies are being poisoned. It does give a large chunk of extra damage. And for the other links, we've got the Vicious Projectiles now. Minion damage still got the level 3 in power, and the Void Manipulation 2, just for the more damage overall. I do just want to note that if you want to use a Triad Grip, please do not use it without 4 white sockets, as Void Manipulation will negate all of the damage that your Agony Crawler is doing. During my testing, I accidentally did this, and for like 3 hours of playing, I was wondering, why is the build doing no damage? It feels like shit. And then of course, just quickly moving on to the flasks here, boys. I'm just running a Quicksilver with increased armor, and then the Granite with evasion rating, and then freeze immunity on the Sulfur, and the Jade Flask for immunity to bleed as well. I would probably recommend that instead of having the evasion rating over here, that you have got immunity to ignite. Alright, and that is it, boys, for this second update video of the 4 videos that I have got lined up. Hopefully I was able to cover everything for you, and should you have enjoyed the video, then drop a like down below, please. I will appreciate it. It helps to reach more people. And obviously, if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button, boys, and don't forget to ring that bell to stay updated with my latest videos and live streams that I do right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, Exile, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.